Welcome to the Baseball Happenings podcast. Our guest this episode is former Major Leaguer turned agent Jeff Frye, who comes on the show to discuss his newfound social media fame and why he's on a crusade to dispel the myths of all of these so-called internet hitting gurus. Before we get into the show, we'd love it if you'd like, follow, and subscribe to us on whatever platform you're using to listen to the podcast, and to check us out on social media. We're at Examine Baseball on most platforms, and you can find us on the web, baseballhappenings.net. We got Jeff Frye, former Major League infielder with us from 92 to 2001 with the Rangers, Red Sox, Rockies, and Toronto Blue Jays. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Nick. I appreciate it.
You've been really popular on social media recently. Where a lot of your videos picking up random items in the yard and showing people how to hit with them. Jeff, where'd you get the idea to start filming some of these videos?
It's kind of funny. I mean, it started out just as a joke, and I'm friends with some scouts. I've been a sports agent for 18 years. So after I retired, I became an agent. So I'm friends. We have a lot of friends in the scouting industry, and we just send each other some of these funny videos that we see on either Twitter or Instagram or YouTube of some of the things that we see being taught to kids these days. And it just happened to be in the backyard one day, and I'd seen this funny video, or at least what I considered to be funny, and had my son film me or, take a short video of me doing this drill. And I was like, I'm going to put it on Twitter and see what happens. And I put it on there, and one of my scout buddies, I text him, and he's like, man, I got like 400 views on this video. And, I thought that was a lot. And then like an hour later, he goes, dude, you got 4,000 views on this video. I was like, are you kidding me? And I've never really been on Twitter very much, or any type of social media for that point. And so it was kind of crazy. And then the backlash I got from the people who created this video and people who believe in this style of teaching just was crazy. And I was like, man, kind of inspired me to make another video, and now it's I just keep making videos.
And so what have you gotten out of the experience in terms of the interaction? You said you were kind of new to social media, obviously wasn't around when you were playing. I mean, the web had just started coming in, but not these sites dedicated to where people are attached to their phones. What's that experience been like, you of having this conversation now in this kind of digital platform where it didn't really exist when you were an active player?
It's been crazy because I've been, unfortunately, I think the downside of this is I've been on my phone a whole lot more than I ever wanted to be. It's I kind of feel a responsibility to respond or react to a lot of the people that are supporting this. And, I had no idea that this kind of Twitter hitting battle has been going on for years and years. And, I just kind of jumped into it, kind of goofing around. And now it's like this big war between the guys that are teaching the new style of hitting. They say it's the way that hitters have to hit now. And the guys who are kind of more of the old school guys like me that believe in, what we were taught, when we came up playing, and what was taught before us and before us and before us. And now it's just like this big battle. And I don't love that part of it, having to be on social media as much as I have been, but I kind of feel like I've almost started a movement to where we're trying to get our game back to where it used to be, because in my opinion, the Major League Baseball is kind of boring to watch anymore with all the strikeouts and home runs.
Right. A lot of people say that because it's like with the Earl Weaver theory. It's like, just wait around for the 3-run home run. And I mean, look, you played in Texas with, some of the greatest home run, hitters in the game. And as you moved throughout the career, you played with a ton of power hitters. But what have you seen change in the approach from, let's say, you played with someone like, Ivan Rodriguez and Rafael Palmeiro and Will Clark and Mo Vaughn, all like prodigious threats at the plate?
Yeah, I mean, what I've seen is that that it seems like what we learned growing up was to hit down through the ball and create backspin. Now they're saying that at least the people that I consider the new age or the new Twitter hitting gurus is that they all said we didn't actually do that. We actually swung up at the ball. If you slow the video down, you can see that we were swinging up, even though we all tried to swing down. And I think they're doing a disservice to kids because not everybody is. I think that what's missed in all this is that the guys that are in the major leagues are the best of the best of the best, and we can't teach everybody to hit like Barry Bonds or Mo Vaughn or Palmeiro or Pudge Rodriguez or Juan Gonzalez. These guys are superhuman athletes that have incredible hand-eye coordination and vision, and these guys are the best or they wouldn't be in the big leagues. So why are we teaching a 12-year-old kid who's just learning baseball to swing up and hit fly balls when that might not be what's going to help him be successful? And I think that it's turned into more of a cookie cutter type thing where we're trying to teach everybody to hit the same way when everybody's different. And I just think it's doing a disservice to kids. If I would have learned to hit the way they're teaching kids now, I would have never made it to the big leagues. There's no question in my mind.
Right. And I mean, now, Jeff, for the people that are listening and be reading this, I mean, you aren't the biggest guy, right? I have your baseball reference page, 5'9", 180. Not exactly, the prototypical, power build. What was your approach when you went to the plate? And, how did you develop that throughout your major league career?
Well, honestly, I don't know what baseball card that is, but my playing weight was really 160 pounds. And one year, at the end of the year, I weighed 155 pounds. So I was, one of the smaller guys in the league. And I was taught to hit the ball on the line or on the ground. And I would get yelled at by my coaches in the minor leagues if I hit the ball in the air. Even to the point where in low A ball, I used a thin-handled bat, which a lot of people consider to be more of a fly ball bat. I used a P72 was the model, and I led the league in hitting in low A ball. The next year in high A ball, one of the coaches recommended to me that I switch to a thicker handle bat, an R161, because it's more of a line drive ground ball bat, and they don't want me hitting the ball in the air. So, I mean, the launch angle and lifting the ball would have never worked for me.
Right. I think sometimes people don't understand that. They're like, you referenced earlier, there's this whole cookie cutter approach, and, youth sports is really taken off, in a way that, is different than it was maybe 20, 25 years ago, in the sense of a lot more money has come into it. And when a lot more money has come into it, you get a lot of quote unquote, experts. And from what I've seen from like your content, you're trying to say, hey, hold on, I played the game, and I played with people in the Hall of Fame, and I was, amongst them, had to hit off them and play in the same team with these guys and get instruction from them. And here I am telling you, here's what it takes to succeed at that level, and people are getting information from, all over the place. What can you advocate for, parents and kids, because there's so much noise in this, hitting space, as you had said earlier?
Yeah, it's that's one of the biggest issues on the social media thing, the Twitter deal, is that when you have people who never had any success in this game beyond high school or college telling major league players who had prolonged careers that we don't know what we're talking about, that's the biggest issue I have with it. And I never once have said that I was a great player. I was never made an all-star team. I'm not in the Hall of Fame. I was just a good, in my opinion, a good, solid Major League Baseball player, or I wouldn't have been there as long as I was. And I think that's the issue, is that people are coming out and saying that we don't know what we're talking about. And I think they have to do that to sell what they're trying to sell. And, what I would say to parents is do your homework, find a coach that's, And this is tough too, because there's, who's to say, and here's another thing is, I never once have said you have to have been a successful player or played in the big leagues to be a good coach. Many of my coaches didn't play in the big leagues, and they were great coaches. But they didn't teach anybody to do things one way. And I'd say if somebody comes in, you bring your kid to a hitting instructor, and they say, this is that we're changing your swing, we're doing this, we're giving you all these types of strange apparatuses to use in hitting, like PVC pipe or fishing nets or spatulas. I would think that would raise a red flag. And I would just say, do your homework before you take your son or daughter to a hitting coach. Because I used a baseball bat and a baseball to practice my hitting. I'm not saying that some of these things aren't useful, but when they're trying to teach everybody to hit one way, swing up, and hit the ball in the air, it's not right.
And I'm glad that, like, major league players are coming out, talking about this. I think I actually found you through probably Marvin Freeman. And
right.
I think it's cool now that, like, in this space, you have recently retired Major League Baseball players that, are willing to actually get online and talk about the craft. A lot of this stuff was, hidden behind closed doors. And so I actually think it's cool that there's a lot of players such like yourself, Freeman, Marquise Grissom, Corey Aldridge. These are some guys I follow that are willing to get online and not just talk about it, like take video and be like, here's what you should be doing. Here's what the thought process is, things like that.
Yeah, and I think, one of these guys that you mentioned, like Marvin Freeman especially, he's been coaching, doing lessons and things for a long time. Obviously, he knows what he's talking about. He's been there. He knows. And that's something that I think that major league retire have to offer. He can tell you what it's like. He can tell you what it's like in batter's box and then on our Andy Johnson, with the angle to trying and people who didn't experience that can't tell you. And they say we don't know what we're talking about. I heard false. It's like you're going to go to a doctor that you have. You're going to go to somebody who's never dealt with somebody that has that ailment and hope that they know what they're doing? No, you're going to find somebody who's been through it. And that's, I think, the value of what former players have to give to these kids and to their parents. And, part of this whole deal that's just kind of, this whole thing came out of nowhere, to be honest with you, buddy. And it's, I think a lot of the former players are not happy with people in baseball these days that are getting jobs that they want because these guys have no on-field experience at all. And now, because they work at this facility that teaches these certain things, these guys are getting jobs in baseball, high-paying jobs, and players, former players that want to be in the game and want to be coaching, those jobs aren't available to them. And I think that's part of the reason our game is where it is today.
I could definitely understand that sentiment of, a lot of former players being on the outside, looking in from guys that didn't come through the system. Jeff, you mentioned earlier, and I noticed this too, right? Now having that video take off and getting a taste of, like, having everyone put their, opinion in there, it was interesting to see for me, so many people just randomly making comments, this isn't right. Jeff Frye wasn't a good hitter. He really didn't hit 300. I'm like, go look at the stats. He hit 300 like in, multiple seasons, but people are like trying to, nitpick and saying like, oh, that'll never work. And, to me, I step back and laugh, but, do you take this stuff with a grain of salt? Because at the end of the day, that you were there and they weren't?
Yeah. And the thing is to play in the major leagues, you got to have thick skin, man, because it doesn't matter, especially playing in a city like Boston or New York or Chicago. I mean, you have a couple bad games in a row, and they're booing you off the field, So you got to have thick skin, and I've always had thick skin being, the smaller guy on the team. People used to say stuff to me like, hey, Bat Boy, how'd you get such a low number? Or, hey, Jeff Frye, what do you want to be when you grow up? Things like that. So you just got to keep it in perspective and say, listen, people are going to hate on us. They've been hating on us their whole, ever since I was in the big leagues and even before. I mean, they booed Ted Williams in Boston. They booed, some of the greatest players in this game have been booed, but you just have to keep it in perspective, I think. And, I'm not going to lie and say it doesn't get under my skin when people who didn't play criticize, my stats and things like that. But, I mean, I did during my era, my job was not to hit a home run. My job was to get on base, to get on first base and steal bases and make things happen and move runners over. And I did my job the best of my ability.
Definitely. Jeff, last bit. So, we're all stuck inside, due to COVID and everything that's going on nationally. Jeff, you played through a baseball stoppage in 1994. You played through the strike. What was that experience like, for the game kind of, I don't want to say being taken away, but the game stopping, and now here where we are, in 2020, and, the game again has had to take a pause?
Yeah, you know what it made me, honestly? It made me appreciate my job. It made me appreciate the fact that I had this game in my life that allowed me to, make a good living and playing the kids' game. And, I think, and I had a few injuries during my career, which also did the same thing, the same effect. When you can't play for a whole year, you realize how much you love this game and how much you want to work at it and be as good as you can be at this game. And I think probably the same thing is happening to a lot of guys right now. They're probably realizing how much they love being out on a baseball field, being in spring training with all their buddies and, all fighting toward the same goal. And I think hopefully, we can recover from this whole coronavirus thing and get back to normal, at least our normal, and get back to playing baseball. And I think even the fans, I know fans are missing the game right now. And, we remember I was playing during September 11th and we had, stopped for a week or two. And once we came back, it was like, oh man, this baseball, this is what America is about. This is going to help us recover from anything. And I think all sports do that, but I think baseball especially.
Definitely a special game. Folks, you want to keep up with Jeff Frye on Twitter. It's that 03JFRYE. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
all right, hashtag shegone. And, that's been a fun one. And, Jeff, the work you're doing is appreciated. And, from baseball guys, I think they could see through it and appreciate the twist, that you're putting on it and sharing that information. So, Jeff, I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you, Nick, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thanks for putting my video on TikTok.
Thanks for joining us on the Baseball Happenings podcast. We'd love it if you leave a review on whatever platform you're using to listen to the show. And until next time, keep swinging for the fences.